Someone who fell in love with you is standing at a crossroads right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now, in this very moment, they're experiencing something they can't ignore anymore. The feelings they thought they'd buried are surfacing in ways that are making them question everything they convinced themselves was true. And what they're about to do, it's going to surprise even them. If something in your spirit just shifted when I said that, if your chest got tight or your breath caught, beloved, this message found you for a reason. Listen, I know you've been feeling something lately. Maybe it's been this restlessness, this sense that something is moving behind the scenes that you can't quite see. Your spirit has been picking up on shifts you couldn't name. That's not your imagination. That's not wishful thinking. What you've been sensing is real, and I'm going to help you understand what's actually happening in their world right now, why it's building to this moment, and what this means for what's unfolding next. By the end of our time together, you're going to have clarity about what's happening in their heart, peace about why this timing is actually perfect, even though it's felt so long, and wisdom about how to hold yourself while this unfolds. You're going to see patterns you couldn't see before. You're going to understand what their silence has really meant, and you're going to know exactly what to do and what not to do while they move through this. And around minute 35, I'm going to share something that's going to completely shift how you see this whole situation. It's going to explain why they're feeling this now, after all this time. Why your absence has been doing something your presence couldn't. And why what's about to happen isn't random. It's actually been building all along. You're going to feel it click into place. Welcome to everyone here, whether this is your first time or you've been walking this journey with me for a while. Before we dive deep, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to those who supported the last video with super thanks. Your generosity literally helps me keep creating these in-depth messages for everyone who needs them. If others feel moved to support this ministry through super thanks, I'm deeply grateful, but absolutely zero pressure. What matters most is that this message reaches your heart exactly when you need it. So let me start by telling you what's really happening in their world right now. Because what I'm seeing is this. They're in that space between who they were when they lost you and who they're becoming now. And in that space, everything is being reconsidered. Every choice, every word they said, every moment they took you for granted, it's all coming back. But this time, it's hitting different. Right now, the person you've been thinking about is moving through their day, and you keep showing up. Not in the obvious, I miss you way they could dismiss or ignore. It's happening in the quiet, unguarded moments. They're making their morning coffee, and suddenly they remember how you took yours. They're driving to work, and a song comes on. Not even your song, just something that was playing in the background of a random Tuesday you spent together, and their chest tightens. They're lying in bed at 11:47 p.m. staring at the ceiling, and they're replaying that conversation. You know the one, where they said things they wish they could take back. Where they made a choice that seemed right then, but feels so wrong now. It's 3 a.m. and they can't sleep because they're thinking about the way you showed up when nobody else did. How you loved them when they were difficult to love. How you stayed consistent when they were inconsistent. How you saw something in them they didn't even see in themselves. And for the first time since you've been apart, they're not just remembering these things, they're feeling the absence of them. The weight of what's no longer there is pressing on them in a way that's making it hard to pretend everything is fine. They passed the restaurant where you had that deep conversation about your dreams, the one where you shared something vulnerable and they actually listened. Their stomach dropped. They scrolled past an old photo, not of you, just from that season, and they had to sit down. Someone mentioned your name in passing, and their whole body reacted before their mind could catch up. This isn't nostalgia. This is something deeper stirring. Here's what's really happening. Their heart is doing something their mind has been resisting. When someone starts experiencing you in the absence, when the memories aren't just pleasant flashbacks, but active aches, it means their soul is trying to reconcile the gap between who they are now and who they were with you. See, when you were present, they could take your love for granted because it was constant. Like air. You don't think about air until you can't breathe. Your absence has created a vacuum, and now every breath they take reminds them something essential is missing. This shift isn't happening because time is healing them away from you. It's happening because time is revealing to them what they lost. There's a difference. When someone is moving on, the memories fade and blur. When someone is being awakened, the memories sharpen and intensify. What you meant to them is coming into focus in a way it never did when you were there. And that clarity is uncomfortable for them. It's disrupting the narrative they built to justify letting you go or pushing you away. I've watched this pattern dozens of times. When someone who thought they were fine without you starts having these visceral, unavoidable reactions to your absence, it's usually the beginning of a genuine reckoning. Not a guarantee of reconciliation, but a real, beautiful possibility that something is shifting in their foundation. The ground they've been standing on is no longer solid. And when the ground shifts, people either plant their feet harder or they start moving. They're starting to move. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but how do I know this is really about me? How do I know I'm not just hoping? Let me tell you, if this message found you, if something in your spirit said yes when I started speaking, that's not coincidence. You've probably been feeling something you couldn't name. Maybe it's been this sense that they're thinking about you more than usual. Maybe you've dreamed about them recently. Maybe you've felt this pull to pray for them, or you've had moments where you just knew they were struggling with something related to you. That's confirmation. Your spirit picks up on shifts before your mind can process them. If you've been restless, if you've been unable to fully close the door on this person, even though logically you know you should, if you felt this strange mixture of peace and anticipation, beloved, you're not making this up. Something is unfolding, and the fact that you're here right now watching this message, that's part of the orchestration, so why now? After all this time? Here's what I've noticed. Certain realizations can only come after distance and contrast. When they first lost you, they were probably able to rationalize it. They told themselves it was for the best. They focused on the problems, the differences, the reasons why it wasn't working. Maybe they even convinced themselves they were happier without you. But here's what happens with real love. The kind of love you offered them, it doesn't diminish with time. It compounds. The longer they're away from you, the more they experience life without your specific presence, the more they realize what made you different. They've had interactions with others now, surface conversations that don't go deep, situationships that don't feel safe, people who are there when it's convenient but disappear when it's hard. And every single one of those experiences is holding up a mirror that reflects what they lost in you. Every disappointment, every shallow connection, every moment they feel unseen or unvalued, it all points back to you. Something else is happening too. They're growing. Painful experiences have a way of maturing us. The person they are now has slightly different eyes than the person they were when they let you go. They're seeing things they couldn't see before, valuing things they didn't value then. And in that new perspective, you look completely different. Not because you changed, because they finally have the vision to see what was always there. If this is resonating, if you're thinking, this is exactly what I've been sensing, stay with me. What I'm about to share next will help you understand why your spirit has been so restless lately, why you haven't been able to fully move on. Because what I've described so far, that's only what's happening on the surface level, the conscious level. Wait until you see what's happening underneath. In the parts of their heart, they're not even aware of themselves. We're just getting started. What I'm about to walk you through is going to show you the layers beneath their awareness, the spiritual dimensions of this shift. Here's what's becoming clear to them, even if they haven't put words to it yet. You were the standard. Every single interaction they have now is being measured against how you loved them, how you showed up, how you made them feel, and nothing is measuring up. They're in a conversation with someone new, and halfway through they think, if this was viewer, they would have actually asked how I felt about this. They would have listened. They're going through something difficult and they reach for their phone, then remember you're not the person they call anymore. And that realization stings in a way they didn't expect. Let me paint you a specific picture. They're having dinner with someone, a friend, a date, doesn't matter. The person across from them is talking, but they're not really hearing them because they're comparing. They're thinking about that time you noticed they were off without them having to say a word. How you'd send them that random text, checking in exactly when they needed it. How you remembered the small things, their coffee order, the name of their difficult coworker, the anniversary of something painful, and you'd acknowledge it without making a big deal out of it. This person in front of them doesn't notice they're distant, doesn't ask if they're okay. And in that moment, the contrast is so sharp, it almost takes their breath away. Or it's Sunday morning, and they're doing something mundane, laundry, grocery shopping, cleaning their apartment. And they remember how you made ordinary moments feel significant, how you'd turn cooking dinner into an adventure, how you'd make them laugh doing the most boring tasks, how being with you made life feel fuller, richer, more vibrant. And now everything feels a little grey, a little flat. And they realize it wasn't the activities, it was you. This is significant because when someone starts using you as the standard, when every experience is filtered through, but with viewer, it was different. That's not casual. That's their heart showing them what real love felt like, what genuine care looked like, what authentic connection actually is. They're realizing, slowly, painfully, that what they had with you wasn't just good. It was rare, and they let it go. If you're still with me, your spirit knows something is shifting. Let me show you what's happening in their emotional world that they're not even aware of yet. The emotions they're experiencing aren't simple. It's not just I miss them. It's this complex mixture, regret that sits heavy in their chest, longing that shows up at inconvenient times, resistance, because admitting this means admitting they were wrong. Fear that they've waited too long, that you've moved on, that they damaged things beyond repair. And underneath it all, this fragile hope they're almost afraid to acknowledge. Some days they feel angry at themselves, at the situation, maybe even at you for showing them what real love was and then not being there anymore. Other days they feel this deep sadness like grief. And other days they feel this strange excitement like maybe, possibly there's still a chance. The emotional weather changes constantly. One moment they're convinced they need to reach out. The next moment they talk themselves out of it. One moment they're drafting a text. The next moment they're deleting it and telling themselves it's too late. Here's the internal conflict. Part of them wants to show up at your door, pour their heart out, tell you everything they've realized. Part of them wants to call you at 2 a.m. and say, I was wrong. I see it now. I see you now. But another part is terrified. Terrified you'll reject them. Terrified you found someone else. Terrified that even if you gave them another chance, they'd mess it up again. So they stay frozen, wanting to move toward you but paralyzed by fear. And that tension is building. But here's what most people don't understand. This tension is actually important. This internal struggle they're going through, it's not wasted time. It's doing something in them. It's breaking down the pride, the defensiveness, the false narratives they built. It's stripping away the superficial reasons and getting down to the truth. And the truth is what makes any breakthrough real and lasting. If they came back to you tomorrow without going through this process, they'd come back as the same person who left. This struggle is changing them. I know it's hard to watch someone you love work through their own process, especially when you've already done your work. But this internal battle they're fighting, it's often the thing that makes the breakthrough genuine when it finally comes. Okay, pause. Because some of you need to hear this. You didn't lose them because you weren't enough. They lost you because they weren't ready. Read that again. You were not the problem. Your love was not too much. You didn't love them wrong. They simply were not in a place to receive what you offered. There's a massive difference, real quick. If that just hit you in your chest, if you needed to hear that today, drop a heart emoji in the comments. No explanation needed. Just let me know you heard it. Because sometimes the simplest truths are the ones we need most. And seeing your hearts reminds me that we're all in this together, healing together, growing together. Now, on a spiritual level, there's something deeper at work here that I need you to understand. This shift that's happening in them isn't random. It's not just emotional or psychological. There's a spiritual dimension to what's unfolding. Whether you believe in divine timing, soul connections, or just the mystery of how hearts heal and open, something bigger than both of you is at work. For those of you who pray, I want you to consider this. The prayers you've prayed over this person, the tears you've cried, the moments you've asked for either breakthrough or closure, those prayers are not unanswered. What you're witnessing in this shift, this is the answer beginning to unfold. Breakthrough doesn't usually look like sudden dramatic change. It looks like this: subtle movements, internal shifts, gradual awakenings. The person who's been deaf is starting to hear. The person who's been blind is starting to see, not all at once. In layers, there's an ancient wisdom that says, to everything there is a season. And I think about that when I see situations like yours. There was a season where they needed to be away from you, not because it was right, because it was necessary for the growth that couldn't happen any other way. And now, we might be entering a different season, a season of recognition, a season of return, or a season of release that brings you both peace. But either way, the season is shifting. For some of you, I sense very specifically that this shift in their heart is directly connected to prayers you've been praying recently. Within the last 2 weeks, maybe even the last few days, you've had moments where you've released them to whatever is meant to be. You've said in some form, if this is meant to be, let it be. If not, give me peace. That surrender, that opened something in the spiritual realm. Your release of control created space for them to be drawn back naturally, not through force or manipulation, but through genuine revelation. Now here's where it gets really interesting and hopeful. Let me show you what this could actually lead to. So where is this heading? I can't promise you specifics, I'm not a fortune teller, but I can tell you what I've seen unfold when this pattern continues. Sometimes it leads to restoration. They reach out. They're humble. They're different. They've done their work. And there's a genuine opportunity for something rebuilt on a stronger foundation than before. That happens. I've seen it. And when it happens this way, after real growth, real realization, real change, it often lasts because it's no longer based on infatuation or convenience. It's based on genuine recognition of value, but sometimes it leads somewhere different. Sometimes what happens is this: they do reach out, but you realize in the conversation that while they've grown, you've grown too. And the version of you they're reaching for isn't who you are anymore. You've evolved past needing them to validate you. You've built a life that's full without them. And you're able to offer forgiveness, closure, even friendship, but not romance. Not again. And that's beautiful too, because it means you're free. Or sometimes what happens is this: the shift continues internally for them, but they never actually reach out. They go through this whole process, this whole transformation, but for whatever reason, fear, timing, pride, or something else in their life, they don't act on it. And you know what? Even that is important, because knowing that they realized what they lost, knowing that you weren't wrong about what you shared, knowing that your love did matter, that can bring its own form of closure and peace. Here's what I want you to hear. Whether this leads to restoration or release, what's happening right now is not wasted. They're learning something they needed to learn. You're growing in ways you needed to grow. Your value is being confirmed. Their capacity is being expanded. And whatever comes next, with them or with someone else, you're both being prepared for something better than what you had before. That's never wasted. Every season serves a purpose. Stay with me. What I'm about to share next is the piece that ties everything together. This is where clarity comes. I pour my heart into these messages because I genuinely care about your journey. If this is bringing you clarity, peace, or hope right now, and you feel moved to support what we're building here through super thanks, it truly means the world and helps me continue creating content like this. But honestly, what matters most is that you're getting what you need. So whether you support or not, I'm just grateful you're here. Here's what I promised at the beginning. This is the insight that changes everything. What's really happening right now isn't just that they miss you. It's not even just that they're realizing what they lost. What's actually happening is this. They're finally becoming the person who can recognize the love you were offering. Let me say that again because it's important. The shift isn't that you're suddenly more valuable than you were. You were always valuable. The shift is that they're finally developing the capacity to see it. You were offering them water while they were convinced they weren't thirsty. You were showing them treasure while they were distracted by shiny but empty things. You were giving them gold while they were satisfied with copper. And now they're thirsty. Now they recognize treasure. Now they know the difference between gold and everything else. This is what's really happening beneath all the surface-level emotions and behaviors. They haven't changed their mind about you. They've changed their mind about what matters. And in changing their mind about what matters, you suddenly came into focus in a completely different way. Before, they were looking at you through the lens of their immature value system. A system that prioritized superficial things, physical attraction without depth, excitement without stability, freedom without commitment, ego without vulnerability. You didn't fit that system perfectly. You challenged it. You asked for more. You required them to grow, and they weren't ready for that. But now they've lived in that shallow system. They've experienced the emptiness of connections that look good, but feel hollow. They've had their fill of surface-level interactions that don't satisfy. They've realized that excitement without safety is exhausting, that freedom without commitment is lonely, that protecting their ego costs them someone real. Their value system is being reconstructed, and as it rebuilds with more mature priorities, depth, consistency, genuine care, emotional safety, real partnership, you fit perfectly, better than perfectly. You're the embodiment of what they now realize they actually need. The crazy thing they're about to do? It's not crazy at all when you understand this. To the outside world, to people who don't understand this shift, it might look crazy. Why are they going back? Why now? I thought they moved on. But it's not crazy. It's clarity. It's them finally acting on what their heart has been trying to tell them. Some of you, they're about to reach out in a way that surprises even them. A vulnerable text, a phone call where their voice shakes, showing up somewhere they know you'll be, an honest, humble admission that they were wrong. Not a breadcrumb, not manipulation. A genuine, I see it now and I need you to know. This is the core truth beneath everything else. And this is why their behavior has seemed so confusing. Why they've been hot and cold. Why they've pulled back, then seemed to soften, then pulled back again. They've been fighting against their own awakening. Because admitting this, admitting that they were wrong, that they let something real go, that they need to humble themselves, that's not easy. Especially if they were the one who left. Especially if they said hurtful things. Especially if they have pride or ego invested in being the one who moved on. But here's what I know about real love. It's persistent. Not in a desperate way, in a truth way. Real love has a way of making itself known, no matter how much we try to bury it or rationalize it away. And what you gave them was real. So even though they've been fighting it, even though they've been trying to convince themselves they're fine, reality keeps breaking through. Every comparison, every disappointment, every empty interaction. It's all been chipping away at their resistance, and now we're at the tipping point. That's what you've been feeling. That restlessness, that sense of anticipation. Your spirit has been picking up that they're close to the breaking point, close to the moment where the internal shifts become external action, where the private realizations become public admission. That's why this message found you today. That's why you're here. Because something is about to move from the realm of happening internally to happening visibly. This is why you've been feeling the specific things you've been feeling. That restlessness, that's not anxiety. That's spiritual awareness that something is changing in the atmosphere around your situation. You're picking up on energy shifts before they materialize into action. Your soul is sensitive to the movement, even when you can't see it with your physical eyes. That's why you've had trouble sleeping. Why you've been thinking about them more recently, even though you thought you were moving on. Why you've had dreams about them, or sudden memories that seem to come out of nowhere. Why you've felt this strange mix of peace and anticipation. Your spirit has been tuning in to what's happening in their interior world. The walls they built are crumbling. The narrative they constructed is falling apart. The awakening is reaching critical mass, and that pull you've felt to pray for them, to think kindly of them even after everything, to not completely close the door even though it would be easier. That wasn't weakness. That was wisdom. Your soul knew something your mind didn't. Your spirit was protecting a possibility that needed protection. Not because you were desperate, because you were discerning. You sensed that this story wasn't finished yet. For some of you watching this, I sense something very specific. You've been on the edge of completely closing the door. Maybe even this week. Maybe even today. You've been thinking, I need to block them. Delete their number. Remove every trace. Move on completely. But something kept stopping you. You couldn't quite do it. Beloved, that hesitation, that was divine protection. Something in you knew that the shift was close, that the breakthrough was near, that closing the door completely right now would mean missing something that's been building all along. I want to speak to some specific groups watching right now. For those who've been waiting in faith, I sense that your waiting is about to shift into a new season. Not necessarily the exact season you expected, but the one you needed. The season where either they finally act on what's been building, or you receive such profound peace about releasing them that it feels like freedom. Either way, the waiting season is completing. You're about to have your answer in form or feeling. And it's going to be clear. For those who've been praying, your prayers have been heard and are being answered. What you're witnessing in this shift, in what you've been sensing, in this message finding you, that's evidence of movement. Spiritual movement happens before physical movement. Hearts change before circumstances change. What's happening in them right now is the answer to what you've been asking for. Don't give up now. Don't quit praying now. You're closer than you think. For those who've been hurting, the pain has been refining something in you that needed refining. And what's emerging is a version of you that knows your worth, that doesn't chase, that can receive love without grasping, that can offer love without losing yourself. Whether this person is part of your future or not, you're becoming someone who's ready for real, mature, healthy love. And that's never wasted. That's exactly what needed to happen. For those who are afraid to hope, I see you. You're protecting yourself. You've been disappointed before. Maybe by this same person. Maybe you've seen them start to shift before, only to pull back. Maybe you've gotten your hopes up and had them crushed. So you're guarded. You're skeptical. And that's okay. But let me tell you this. What's happening now is different. This isn't surface. This is deep. This isn't temporary. This is foundational. You don't have to throw your heart wide open, but don't bolt it shut either. Stay open to possibility while protecting your peace. Both can be true. Everything I've shared so far, it leads to this next part. And this is what most people miss. This is the key that unlocks how you move through this season. Now, I need to be completely honest with you because I care too much to give you false hope. I cannot tell you definitively that this ends with them coming back and you riding off into the sunset together. I can't promise you that the crazy thing they're about to do is exactly what you want them to do. I can't guarantee that this breakthrough leads to the reconciliation you've been praying for. What I can tell you, and I say this with complete confidence, is that whatever is unfolding is moving you both toward where you're meant to be. And sometimes that journey looks different than we expected. Sometimes the person we were meant to be with is the person we had to lose in order to become who we needed to be. Sometimes the love story is about how they helped you discover your worth, not about how you ended up together. But here's what I know to be true. Whether this leads to them coming back or you moving forward, whether this ends in restoration or beautiful release, the shift happening right now is important. It's validating. It's confirming. Because you're discovering that you weren't crazy. You weren't wrong. What you shared was real. What you felt was mutual, even if they couldn't access it at the time. And sometimes just knowing that your love mattered, that you weren't imagining the connection, that they do see what they lost, that knowledge alone can heal something in you that's been wounded. Pause with me for just a second. I want to know, did what I just shared resonate with something you've been feeling but couldn't put into words? If it did, type "I felt this" in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly, seeing your confirmations reminds me why I do this. Sometimes we all need to know we're not alone in what we're experiencing. So if this spoke to you, let me know. Now that you understand what's happening in them, let me show you what to do with this information. Because how you move through this season will determine how this story unfolds. Some of you needed this confirmation more than you realized. Let me share something that's going to bring even more peace to your heart. While they're going through this process, while this shift is building in them, while they're working up the courage or clarity or humility to act on what they're feeling, your job is not to force it, rush it, or control it. Your job is to maintain your own peace. And I know that's easier said than done when you're feeling what you're feeling, when you want to reach out, when you want to help them along, when you want to create opportunities for them to show up. But beloved, the most powerful thing you can do right now is stay in your peace. Here's what that looks like practically. When you wake up in the morning and they're the first thought in your mind, instead of immediately checking your phone to see if they texted, take 3 deep breaths and set an intention for your own day. Make your peace independent of their action or inaction. When you're tempted to drive by their place or show up where you know they'll be, ask yourself, is this coming from peace or from anxiety? If it's anxiety, don't do it. If it's genuine peace and confidence, that's different. When they cross your mind throughout the day, and they will, instead of spiraling into, what are they thinking? Or are they thinking about me? Just send them a silent blessing. I hope they're well. I hope they're growing. I hope they find clarity. And then redirect your attention to your own life, your work, your friendships, your growth, your healing, your joy. This isn't about being strategic to win them back. This isn't playing hard to get. This is genuinely becoming the person who doesn't need them to come back in order to be okay. And here's the beautiful irony, that energy, that peace, that completeness in yourself. It's magnetic, not in a manipulative way, in an authentic way. People are drawn to wholeness. So while you're maintaining your peace for you, it's also creating an energetic field that either draws them in or makes your moving forward easier. Either way, you win. I know waiting is hard. I know every day that passes where they don't reach out feels like another day lost. I know you're thinking, what if they wait too long? What if I move on? What if someone else comes into my life? But forced timing breaks what's being built. Premature action creates premature endings. Here's what I've noticed over years of watching these situations. When this kind of deep shift happens in someone, it has its own rhythm, its own pace. Sometimes it's fast. They have the realization and they act on it within days or weeks. Sometimes it's slower. They need months to process, to work through their fear, to become brave enough to be vulnerable. But it's always purposeful. Even the slow timing is doing something important. Every day they don't reach out, they're becoming more sure. Every day they wrestle with whether or not to contact you, they're building courage. Every day they work through their pride or fear or shame, they're being refined. And when they finally do act, if they do act, it's going to be from a place of genuine readiness rather than impulsive emotion. Don't you want that? Don't you want them to come back ready, not just reactive? Your role isn't to speed it up. You can't anyway. You can't force someone into a breakthrough. You can't rush someone into emotional maturity. They have to walk their own journey at their own pace. Your role is to stay aligned with your own growth while they align with theirs. To keep evolving, to keep healing, to keep becoming who you're meant to be, whether that's with them or without them. For some of you, I sense the timing is closer than you think, like weeks, not months. For others, there's still refinement happening on both sides. Either way, I'm telling you, the timing is perfect for what needs to happen, even when it doesn't feel perfect, even when it feels excruciating. Trust that what needs to unfold is unfolding at exactly the pace it needs to, While this unfolds, there will be signs. Not the obvious, "they texted me" kind, though that might happen too, but the subtle ones that confirm what's happening beneath the surface. Let me tell you what to watch for. Sign 1, mutual connections start mentioning them more. If you have friends in common, or if people who know both of you suddenly bring them up out of nowhere, that's not random. They're asking about you. They're talking about you. And it's getting back to your world in indirect ways. When someone asks, "Hey, have you talked to person lately?" seemingly out of the blue, what they're really saying is, "Person has been bringing you up." Sign 2. You feel a shift in the energy. I know that sounds abstract, but if you're spiritually sensitive at all, you know what I mean. You've been feeling one way about this situation for months. Maybe heavy, maybe sad, maybe resigned. And then suddenly, seemingly overnight, you feel different, lighter, more hopeful, more at peace. That shift, that's often reflecting a shift happening in them or in the situation itself. Energy is real. You're feeling what's changing. Sign 3, they start showing up in your space, digitally or physically. Maybe they view your social media story after months of silence. Maybe they like an old photo. Maybe you run into them somewhere and it feels too coincidental. Maybe they happen to be at the same place at the same time more than once. These aren't always accidents. Sometimes they're testing the waters, seeing how you'll respond, creating opportunities without having to be fully vulnerable yet. When you notice these signs, don't overanalyze them to death. Don't start making plans or assumptions. Just observe, notice, and stay grounded. These signs are confirmations that yes, something is moving, but they're not the full breakthrough yet. They're the prelude, the warm-up, the indication that the main event is coming. So acknowledge them, but don't chase them. Let them build naturally. We're almost there. Let me tie this all together with what matters most for your heart right now. Here's what most people don't think about, and it's critical. What if this shift does lead to them reaching out? What if they do show up, humble and honest and different? Are you ready for that? Have you done your own work? This season isn't just about them changing. It's about you growing into who you need to be for what's next, whether what's next includes them or not. So while you're waiting, while you're maintaining peace and trusting timing, I need you to ask yourself some real questions. Have you healed from what happened? Not just covered the wound, but actually healed? Because if they come back and you're still carrying resentment, bitterness or hurt that hasn't been processed, you'll sabotage the opportunity. Have you forgiven them, really forgiven them? Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be free. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to take them back. It just means you're no longer carrying their debt. Have you worked on the things that weren't working in you? Because here's hard truth spoken with love. Relationships don't fail because of one person. Even if they were 90% of the problem, there's usually a 10% that belong to you. Maybe you had poor boundaries. Maybe you tolerated disrespect. Maybe you didn't communicate clearly. Maybe you made them your whole world and lost yourself. Whatever your part was, have you addressed it? Because if they come back changed and you haven't changed, you'll just recreate a different version of the same problems. Are you building a life you love without them? This is so important. If your whole life has been on pause, waiting for them to come back, that's not healthy. And honestly, that energy pushes people away rather than drawing them in. But if you're genuinely creating a beautiful life, new hobbies, deeper friendships, career growth, personal development, joy and fulfillment that exists independent of them, then if they do come back, they're adding to something already good, not completing something broken. Prepare your heart not just for their return, but for wholeness regardless of what happens. The healthiest posture you can take right now is this: I'm open to restoration if it's right. I'm open to release if it's better. I trust that whatever unfolds is leading me to where I'm meant to be. This isn't giving up. This isn't resignation. This is surrendering control. And there's enormous power in that surrender. When you're gripping tightly to one specific outcome, you're in a state of resistance. Resistance creates tension, anxiety, and energetic desperation. But when you open your hands and say, "I trust the process, whatever it looks like," you're in a state of flow. And flow is where miracles happen. Here's what I mean practically. Stay open to them coming back different, ready and real. And don't close that door in cynicism or bitterness, but also stay open to the possibility that the purpose of this whole situation was to teach you both something you needed to learn, and the outcome is beautiful closure rather than renewed romance. Both can be sacred, both can be right. Stay open to the idea that maybe someone else is coming into your life who's already the person they're still trying to become. Stay open to being surprised by how this unfolds. Stay open to timelines you didn't expect. Stay open to apologies you stopped hoping for. Stay open to healing you didn't think was possible. Just stay open, soft but boundaried, hopeful but realistic. This isn't toxic positivity where you pretend everything is fine. This is mature faith that says, "I don't know how this ends, but I believe it ends somewhere good." That's the posture that lets you sleep at night. That's the posture that keeps you from obsessing. That's the posture that makes you magnetic to the right people and situations. That's the posture that lets divine timing do its work without you interfering. Whatever is meant for you will not pass you by, and whatever passes you by was never meant for you. Believe that with everything in you. Now, as this unfolds, as they potentially start reaching out or showing signs, you need to be able to discern whether it's moving in a healthy direction or whether it's more of the same patterns dressed up differently. Let me give you specific signs to watch for. Healthy signs that this is real growth. They acknowledge specific things they did wrong, not vague, "I'm sorry if I hurt you, but I'm sorry I dismissed your feelings when you told me about." They ask about your life now, genuinely curious about how you've been, not just focused on getting back together immediately. They respect your boundaries. If you need space or time to process, they've made visible changes in their life that show growth, therapy, personal work, changed behaviors. They're patient. They're not rushing you or pressuring you or giving ultimatums, but if instead you're seeing these red flags, they only reach out late at night or when they're lonely. They're vague about what's changed or why they're reaching out now. They get defensive. When you bring up past hurt, they want all the benefits of your presence without any of the commitment. They're saying what you want to hear, but their actions don't match. They're making you feel guilty for being hesitant or having boundaries. That's not divine restoration. That's breadcrumbing, manipulation, or someone who's bored and wants attention but hasn't actually changed. And beloved, you deserve better than that. You deserve someone who's doing the actual work, not just saying the right words. Watch the patterns, not just the promises. Before we close, I have to ask you something. What's the one word that describes how you're feeling right now after everything we've covered? Hopeful, peaceful, overwhelmed, relieved, emotional. Just drop that one word in the comments. I'm genuinely curious, and I think it'll be powerful for everyone to see how this message is landing differently for each person. Your one word might be exactly what someone else needs to see, so go ahead, type it now before we finish. If you've stayed with me this long, there's something in your spirit that knows this message was for you. Here's what to hold on to as we close. Final thoughts as we come to the end of our time together. This is what I want you to remember above everything else. So here's what we've covered today. Someone who fell in love with you is experiencing a profound shift right now. They're realizing what they lost. They're feeling your absence in ways they couldn't when you were present. They're comparing every interaction to what they had with you, and nothing measures up. This is happening because they're finally becoming the person who can recognize the love you were offering. Time and distance have matured their value system, and suddenly you fit perfectly into what they now realize they actually need. And while this unfolds, your job is to maintain your peace, trust the timing, watch for the signs, prepare your heart, and stay open to all outcomes. Something is moving, something is shifting, and you're right on the edge of clarity. If you've felt seen through this message, if details I shared match things you've been experiencing, if confirmations came that you weren't expecting, that's because this is your story. What I've described isn't generic advice for the masses. This is what's actually unfolding in your specific situation right now. Your spirit recognizing it throughout this message. That's divine confirmation. You haven't been imagining the shifts you've felt. You haven't been making up the signs you've noticed. You haven't been creating false hope out of desperation. Something real is happening. The energy around your situation is changing. They are going through an internal transformation regarding you, and whether it leads to the reunion you've hoped for or the peaceful closure you need, it's leading somewhere purposeful. The crazy thing they're about to do might be reaching out vulnerably. It might be showing up unexpectedly. It might be a confession of feelings they've been holding. It might be an apology that's real and specific. It might surprise you. It might not look exactly like you pictured, but something is building, and it's closer than you think. Now I want to leave you with hope, but hope grounded in reality. I can't promise you that this person is definitely coming back, and you'll live happily ever after. That's not my place to promise, and honestly, that's not always what's best. What I can promise you is this: something is shifting, something is changing. And whether that leads to romantic restoration or peaceful release, it's leading you somewhere better than where you've been. Growth is happening. In them, in you, in the space between you. And that's never wasted. Even if this doesn't end with you together, the fact that they're realizing what they lost validates you. It confirms you weren't wrong about what you shared. It proves your love was real and valuable, and sometimes that validation alone heals something deep that needed healing. But for many of you watching this, I sense this does lead to restoration. Real restoration, built on a foundation of genuine change and mutual growth, and that's going to be beautiful in ways you can't even imagine yet. If this message truly touched your soul today, if it gave you hope when you needed it most, if it confirmed things you've been sensing, and you want to support this work continuing, Super Thanks is such a beautiful way to do that. Every contribution helps me dedicate time to creating these deep, meaningful messages instead of just quick content. But please, only if it genuinely blessed you and you feel called to give. Your presence here is already a gift to me. For everyone watching, I want to speak this over you right now. May you have peace in the waiting. Not the forced, fake peace that ignores reality, but the deep peace that trusts the process. May you have clarity in the confusion. May you see signs and confirmations that remind you you're not alone and this is unfolding as it should. May you trust the timing, even when you can't see the outcome. May you grow through this season, not just go through it. May you become someone who knows their worth so deeply that you can receive love without grasping and offer love without losing yourself. And may you discover that whether this person is part of your future or not, you are being led somewhere beautiful. Your story isn't over. Some of the best chapters haven't been written yet. The ending might surprise you. It might be better than what you planned. It might be exactly what your soul has been asking for, even if it doesn't look like what your mind expected. You are worthy. You are valuable. You are loved. And your breakthrough is coming. If this message resonated with you, if it brought you hope or clarity, subscribe so we can continue this journey together. I'm here creating content to help you navigate these real, messy, beautiful situations with wisdom, faith, and hope. You're not alone in what you're experiencing. There's a whole community of people walking similar paths, learning the same lessons, holding on to the same faith that something beautiful is unfolding. And listen, I have to know, did this message find you at exactly the right time? Like, was this divine timing? Because sometimes these messages find people precisely when they need them most. If this feels like it was meant for you today, if the timing of you clicking on this video was perfect, comment right on time so I can see how many of you this reached in your perfect moment. Seriously, I love seeing how these messages land exactly when they're supposed to. The orchestration of it all gives me chills every time. I'll see you in the next one, beloved. Until then, keep your peace. Trust the timing. Stay open to what's unfolding. And remember, you are worthy of a love that doesn't make you question your worth. You deserve someone who sees you, values you, chooses you, and does the work to keep you. Don't settle for less than that, even if it's with the person you want most. Be gentle with yourself. Give yourself grace. This is a tender season. You're doing better than you think. The shift is happening. Whether you can see it yet or not, movement is occurring. Breakthrough is building. And you're going to be more than okay. You're going to be exactly where you're meant to be. I'm sending you so much love. Take care of that beautiful heart of yours.